Hello and welcome to Lapping Analytics. My name is Jimmy Lapping. I'm a psychologist and statistician with an interest in a range of topics, including the forecasting of sports events. And a few days ago, I posted a video on my channel with the forecast for the round of 16, a week before the forecast of the round of 32 of the FIFA World Cup 2026, which has been hosted by the US, Canada, and Mexico. And in this video I evaluate the performance of my forecast for the round of 32 and round of 16 and provide my forecast for the round of 8 or the quarter finals. So here you see a combined overview of the round of 32 and round of 16. Actually, the round of 32 matches I already evaluated in my previous video where I provided my forecast for the round of 16. As I mentioned there, the surprises in the round of 32 compared to my forecast were that Paraguay, Morocco and Norway proceeded to the next round at the expense of Germany, Netherlands and Ivory Coast. And in the round of 16 there have been a few surprises as well, because for Canada versus Morocco I actually predicted a draw and that Canada would win in extra time or penalties, but Morocco proceeded. And Norway beat Brazil, which I don't think many people expected. England beat Mexico, which, well, maybe some people expected based on history, but since I used the performance of the two competing teams in the tournament so far, and Mexico had a good performance with 0 goals against, I basically forecast that Mexico would win the match. England did, and in the US versus Belgium, also the US was slightly favored going into the match, but in the end Belgium had a very clear victory. So of the 24 matches that you see here for round 32 and round of 16, in about 54% of those I had the direction draw, team A win or team B team correct, and in 71% of the cases, or 17 out of 24 matches, I had the ultimate winner correct, meaning that I correctly predicted which one would proceed to the next round. 71%, which is a fairly normal performance for the model that I am using. And as I already mentioned in my video with the forecast for the round of 32, is that well, when you use it in this kind of tournaments, it is easier to be on the incorrect side, because you don't often find probabilities of winning of 70 or 80% for one team versus another, because you're not trying to predict the outcome of a national league, let's say of the number 1 or 2 in the competition versus the number 16 in the competition. Then you might have a very high probability of winning for the team on top of the league. Here you deal with countries that well, tend to be situated more closely to another in terms of capabilities, in terms of performance. So it's not common to find very high probabilities for one specific outcome. So that's also what this model does, actually, to quantify the uncertainty around a specific outcome, right? Okay. So, given the outcomes of the round of 16 and of course all the matches before, what does that mean for my forecast for the quarterfinals? I'm not going to explain all these numbers in detail. If you want to know the mathematical or statistical basis behind this model, then I refer to my previous videos, so the ones in which I forecast the round of 32 and round of 16 results. But basically for France you see a colored column on the left, which indicates in blue the goals that they scored in the group matches, and in dark blue the goals that they scored in the playoffs so far. And in the second half of that column is the goals that Morocco got against, so conceded against opponents in the tournament so far, right? Because that gives indication of an opponent's scoring potential against Morocco in this tournament. For Morocco it's the other way around, so you see a colored row on top. So in blue you see the number of goals that Morocco scored in each of the different matches, light blue what they scored in the group matches, and dark blue what they scored in the playoffs. And then the second half on the right of that row, so in reddish brownish, that is the goals that France scored against opponents, which is in this case this is the goals that let's see, wait a minute. This is the goals that France got against, so had to concede versus other opponents, which gives an indication of the scoring potential of an opponent against France. So, and then of course we compare each of these numbers in the colored column and row. So we have a total of 100 comparisons, and that gives the frequency table just below the matrix, and the graph on the right with the probabilities or proportions of different numbers of goal difference for France and for the draw and for Morocco. So the gray bar is a draw. The blue ones indicate comparisons that had a positive number, which is in favor of France, and the red ones a negative number, which would be in favor of Morocco. Why is it negative for Morocco? Because, well, we say, okay, a value of France minus a value of Morocco. So if there is a negative number, that means that Morocco's number was bigger. So the red bars are basically goal differences in favor of Morocco, whereas the blue ones are goal differences in favor of France, and the gray ones are in favor of neither of the two. When we put these comparisons together and apply the same kind of prior distribution as I did in the previous rounds, we see that we get to a probability of France winning after regular time of almost 48%. 26% that Morocco gets a draw. France and Morocco get a draw in the regular time, and 26% chance that Morocco wins in regular time. So basically the most likely event is that France wins after regular time. Now, when we look at the next one, Spain versus Belgium, similar approach here, which did the same approach as we applied previously. We see that in this case, for instance, for Belgium in the colored row on the right, we see 5 zeros. Why is that? Because Spain didn't concede a single goal in this tournament. So that means that the opponents of Spain have so far not been able to score against Spain. Hence, that half of the colored row for Belgium has zeros, because it's super difficult to score against Spain. Well, and so far opponents have simply not been able to do that. When we take all comparisons together, we see that the blue bar just on the left of the draw is the most likely goal difference. We see that when we take all the areas, blue, gray, and red, when we count those different areas, we see that there is clearly it's the most likely outcome is a win for Spain, and the least likely outcome is a draw after regular time. So there is about, when you look at the posterior, it's about 50.4% chance that Spain win after regular time, 28.7% chance of a Belgium win after regular time, and almost 21% chance of a draw after regular time. So Spain is the clear favorite here. Okay, third match, Norway versus England. Norway definitely surprised against Brazil. Well, England, at least in my view, also against Mexico. I would have said Mexico was the favorite, but England won. So both teams have grown well into the tournament, are in good shape. And when you look at the graph on the right, you see that it's not exactly symmetric, but it's getting close to symmetric, actually, the distribution. And when you look at the posterior probabilities, you see that Norway has a 33% chance of winning after regular time versus England an almost 43%, and the draw probability is the remaining 24 and a bit. So the difference between Norway's winning probability and England's winning probability is less than 10 percentage points, and the sum of the two least likely probabilities, 33 and 24, it's these two, it's just over 57%. So in this case, I would say the forecast for the regular time is a draw. But I think that given England having the highest probability, England will win after additional time or after penalties. And finally, Argentina versus Switzerland. Here I would say that Argentina has a slightly better chance of proceeding, 43.48%, but you see Switzerland 33.91%. So again, less than 10 percentage points difference between the two, between the probabilities of winning for one team or the other. And the probability of a draw and that of a Switzerland win, those together are just over 56%, which is over the 55% that I use as a criterion to say, okay, probably draw is the most likely outcome after regular time. But given that Argentina has the better probability in the end, my forecast is that in additional time or in penalties, Argentina will go to the next round. So what does that mean for my forecast? It means that I say France and Spain are probably going to win after regular time, whereas England and Argentina, they will win ultimately, but they will need additional time and possibly penalties to do so. Now, if my forecast is correct, that means that the semi-finals will be France versus Spain and England versus Argentina. Let's see if it plays out like this. I mean, as I've said many times, these probabilities indicate how difficult it is to correctly predict who's going to be the winner of a specific match, because, well, certainly as you advance more towards semi-final and final, the teams that compete against each other are more and more similar in terms of performance. I mean, they have gotten to this stage for a reason. But, well, in the end, the highest probabilities are the most likely outcomes. So this is my forecast, and let's see how it plays out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Again, if you're interested in the foundation of the method that I use for this kind of forecast, you will find it in my previous videos for the FIFA World Cup. And when the quarterfinals are over and it's time to make a forecast for the semifinals, I will be back with a video on that. Thank you so much. Have a nice rest of the week, and see you soon. Bye bye.